CNA's special report continues tonight with an examination of sex education and toxic masculinity. The Gender Balance is looking at the challenges faced by women here in Singapore ahead of a government white paper. Now, when it comes to sex education, questions on what, when and how to teach children and teenagers have come to the fore. First, Liang Lei finds out how parents are handling certain aspects of sex education.
Parents can play a crucial role when it comes to talking to their kids about sex.
In fact, authorities want them to take the lead on this. But how are they handling this responsibility? I'm going to find out in a social experiment.
4 parents are going to tell me how strongly they agree or disagree on certain topics.
I should take the initiative to talk to my kids about sex and consent.
I think raising kids that become adults who understand consent, respect, safety and boundaries really means to have that culture started at home first, when that skill and communication is consistently practiced.
So when they are young, it's very difficult because they don't actually encounter that particular moment, what I call a teaching moment, and how to speak about it. Can I be open?
So next question is, I'm okay if my kids learn about sex outside school and family environments.
If they do go to another source outside parents and school, that they are comfortable enough to then come back to me and say, yeah, Mama, I read about this, or what do you think? But the information should come first and foremost from parents.
My kids are at that age where I only know them to be in school or at home, and no other space that I feel is as safe as these 2 places. So I would be quite concerned if they were learning about this outside these 2 spheres as of now.
I'm comfortable talking to my kids about pornography.
When you make it such a taboo, how you know? Then the kid will say, sorry.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that is all it takes.
I'm still figuring out what's the best way to do it. Like I have a girl and a boy, and I want to have a different conversation about pornography to my son and to my daughter.
I'm fine if my kids watch pornography.
If there's a third line, strongly disagree.
I've seen that pornography that is body positive, they use real people and they're consensual and they're paid, they're not free. I won't say it's like a teaching material, but if my child would like to explore those kind, I would not really feed him to it, but I won't try to say it's bad, it's wrong.
I'm fine if my kids have premarital sex.
Anywhere. Don't look at us. Anywhere.
Very hard to say. No, we're all...
I'm just thinking, probably be confident enough that he knows what he's doing by then when he's older. With all those foundations I built right now at a young age, it's like a stepping stone to something bigger. And if he does choose, he has to bear the consequences.
If they do have premarital sex, I can't escape from the fact that the first thing that will come to my mind is, where did I go wrong?
At this moment, I can't put my money on anything, but I can only tell myself, I am pretty sure my wife and I will be there for our children, whatever they do, right? I'm not going to brand them or condemn them.
Yeah, because when my kids watch this, what if they do, I want them to be able to talk to me about it. I don't want them to think that I'm already judging them even before something happens.
Some of the parents brought their children along for this experiment. We managed to get some of their thoughts as well.
That's you. Where do you come from, Chris?
I insert on mommy's stomach, and then mommy comes so big on her stomach.
Do you know what's a good touch and what's a bad touch?
Kicking and hitting and have your pivot.
So that one cannot, is it? Any good touch?
Play together and hug and holding hands and have fun.
So Daniel, are your parents your go-to people when you need to talk about sexuality?
Yeah, there have been instances where I've came to my parents and asked certain stuff. But recently, it's about relationships like differentiating lust and love. As I got older, the subjects became more and more like sensitive. Recently, we had a chat about safe sex. Most of these talks happen in the car because my mom say that we can't escape.
Are you afraid of getting into a car with your parents for the next talk?
No, I'm open to these topics. I feel like being more educated about this would prevent me from something bad happening down the road. If I were to split it down, maybe 70% would come from my parents talking to me, and 30% would be from me like actually applying it in real life.
As you've just seen, sex education is not a straightforward affair with parents. To find out how they can be better equipped to engage their kids on the topic, I'm speaking with Minister of State for Education, Sun Xueling.
Parents can try to find out what is actually happening in schools, what the teachers are actually engaging the students on. For instance, from about P5 onwards, there are specific conversations around what is happening to our students when it comes to puberty. So if our parents are aware that these topics are being discussed in schools, then they can also complement by having those conversations on these topics at home as well, so that our children see from different perspectives.
Students are learning more this year thanks to a new curriculum. For example, secondary students learn about online sexual grooming and study the effects of pornography and teenage sex. Classes are scenario-based.
For example, they could be with an adult, and that adult is not behaving appropriately. How should he or she react? Another scenario, when a student, say a boy and a girl, they're frequently together, the students can discuss with each other, like should such a situation arise, how should they make sense of their feelings? This is something that we actually have to consciously bring up to their parents so that they understand how these conversations are being had in class.
Surveys show youths being less opposed to premarital sex, and that society is more open in discussing issues like respect and consent. With these trends, how often does MOE foresee itself revising its sexuality education curriculum?
There have been frequent reviews, I would say easily within the last 10 years. And that reflects the fact that MOE is constantly looking at what are the new challenges our students face. We also have changes through, for example, the scenarios that we use in class. And those scenarios are updated to take into account the new challenges and influences that our students may face.
We've seen how sex education continues to be a work in progress, at home and at school. But what about beyond that? I had a look at two ground-up initiatives.
Nearly 7,000 reports of sexual assault were lodged between 2017 and 2019.
Now, community groups are trying to stem the tide with better education. One of them is creating a series of workshops just for boys. It's still in the works, but they're giving me a preview.
The program's called Boys Empowered.
To achieve lasting gender equality in the community, we need to engage with boys and men to co-create and also participate in the solutions.
During the workshop, participants will go through scenarios like this.
Put yourself in the shoes of the boy. What do you think his response would be?
Oh, I know that I should ask when I want to hold her hand, but at the same time, I don't know whether I can articulate it well.
But it's always important to know that you give someone a choice, right? Not just to say no, but to enthusiastically express yes.
Boys will also learn about emotional intelligence, gender stereotyping, and even how to protect themselves.
And it's more important to actually learn it together with their peers.
United Women Singapore is hoping to bring the workshops to 3 organisations this year. A girls' program is also in the works. At this university, it's the students helping their peers.
Describe what a respectful relationship looks like to you.
I'm sitting in on a demo of what's called a learning circle.
It will be knowing that I can voice my opinions freely without being judged.
Go for it.
And they are looking to invite students to such sessions every semester starting next month.
Given the rise in incidences surrounding sexual misconduct in institutes of higher learning, it already is an indicator to us that there's not enough conversation surrounding personal boundaries. And as such, we tend to forget and maybe overstep these boundaries.
For their mentor, it's one step further in preventing sexual misdeeds.
When we are looking at the concept of offending behaviors, right, and we are looking at it from a perspective of punishment, we also need to look at it in terms of how can we do a bit of restorative work. Building relationship and connecting with one another is the key to prevent people from going against the social norm.
And the endeavour to create a safer society continues.